I feel like when you've healed to other people, it looks like that was just a smooth process. And that you just heal, 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 and then all of a sudden you are healed and everything is okay. But that's not. I mean, I don't think any healing process is smooth. I don't think any healing process is just, it consistently gets better and better and better without any fallbacks or setbacks. So I thought today I am going to take you back in my memories to what it looked like to heal the fearful avoidant attachment style. And mind you, for a large part, I had no idea that I was actually healing this attachment style. I knew I was healing stuff, but I didn't know it was specifically this attachment style, which would have made it so much easier because then I would know much better where to look and what to heal exactly. Um, so I also pretty much went all in, and I don't think that that is necessary. You can definitely heal in like an hour a day, um, by working on it an hour a day, I mean. So, what my day typically look like does not have to be your day. It doesn't mean that this is the only way to heal it. And again, let me let me say this again. I didn't know I was healing this attachment style. So, it took me years and years of intense healing. Um, but that definitely could have been done in 3 months. In my online program, Healed and Happy, I take you through the actual steps that I figured out after doing this for years and years and doing so many things that didn't work and trying to heal so many things that didn't work. So every single thing that is in that program, every single tap, because we use tapping a lot, I will explain a little bit more about that. It's a healing modality. And every single tap that is in that program, it probably took me months to get there, to actually figure out what exactly to heal, what to say, where the pain was, where the trigger was. Um, so now it can be condensed in a few months, which is why I do what I do and what I love doing. Um, but it took me quite some time, which is all okay because I'm at a place where I can safely say I'm healed now. So it was all worth it in the end. But I just want you to know that it doesn't have to take this long. So, a day in the life of healing the fearful avoidant attachment style. When I was in the crash state of this attachment style, which meant I was triggered to the max, those days were really rough. And it wasn't even completely possible to heal most of those days. Even though I would be tapping, which is, let me explain, the emotional freedom technique. If you haven't heard of it, I do have other videos on it on my channel, so look it up. But it is a healing tool that I used a lot. I think 90% of my healing I can attribute to that. And it looks weird. It kind of is weird. You're tapping on certain points on your face and body. But yeah, it helped me so much. So on the days that I was triggered to the max, it was really hard to tap because I would just tap to get rid of this feeling. Like, I did not want to have this feeling. I did not want to feel this shitty and this worthless. Uh, and that wasn't a very conducive way of tapping. So the days I made the most progress were the days where I was relatively calm and I would just, like, things would just pop up. So those in the crash state, those days were mostly just surviving. If you are there, I feel you. I feel with you. It's really hard to be there, to not really understand what is going on. So that's also why I have this channel, because if all you can do is survive, it really helps to see that um, you are not alone, you are not broken, this is not weird that all of this is happening, and it understanding it and understanding where it's coming from can really help you get out of that survival state, which opens up the way to actually healing the deeper layers of this attachment style. So a day in the crash state would look like me waking up probably after not a very good night of sleep with a jolt. I would get startled as soon as I woke up, as if something was wrong. And usually I would start panicking or worrying. Sometimes I would have a panic attack right when I woke up, feeling like something was gravely wrong. In the days where I was doubting my relationship, had relationship OCD, I would start doubting my relationship and everything that had to do with it. Just so my fear brain had this illusion of control. And when I started healing, it was more observing, trying to observe what was happening. So I would get up and just realize that, okay, I'm just completely in fear right now. Still thinking that that was the truth because I had no other reason to believe that it wasn't. Back in the day, the internet was pretty unanimous in that when you have doubts about your relationship, you have to break up. There was not a lot of nuance on that. Um, so I would just wake up in a state of panic. I would get up probably in a state of panic. And then when I really started healing, I would have breakfast and then I would sit down and start healing. And at that time, I either still did, I studied, how do you say that? I went to college, university. Um, but I didn't have a lot of classes and I skipped a lot of classes. So I dedicated a lot of my day to healing, and that looked like writing down a lot. I have books and books and books and books of just me brain dumping. That's what I called it, just getting everything out of my brain onto paper. And that would give me kind of like the relief of not having to hold everything in my head. It was a very big step to actually start writing it down because I was so scared that if I wrote it down, it would be real. Like I was acknowledging that it was real, all these thoughts that I was having. But what it actually did was take the pressure off, because before I felt like I had to have that all in my head and it was just on a constant loop, on a constant loop. So brain dumping really helped, and then I would just start tapping on something that came up, and I had no idea where to look or where to go in that tapping. And some days I would spend the whole day tapping and didn't really heal anything. And when I say whole day, I actually meant that I would probably start tapping around 9:30 or 10 until 12, maybe make myself lunch. Not always. I didn't take good care of myself at all. I probably was still in my pajamas, didn't get dressed. And then by the time lunch came around, I would start to feel really guilty for not doing any other things, like skipping classes, not studying, not doing anything else to build my life. Little did I know tapping and healing would be the absolute best thing I ever did for the rest of my life. It was so much an investment in my future, and I didn't see that back then. I wish I did, because it would have given me the permission to actually do this day in, day out if I could. And I did for a lot of days, but I felt incredibly guilty doing that. I felt like I was worthless for not contributing to anything. So then I would probably start working really hard on something, just anything, to feel productive, because my worth was very much tied into being productive. And then at the end of the afternoon around 3, I would probably be so exhausted that I couldn't be productive anymore. And then I would heal some more just because I couldn't do anything else. I would start tapping again, and yeah, out of sheer exhaustion almost. Yeah. So that was probably the crash state. Mostly I would tap but feel really guilty for not doing other things, not really believing that it would help. So every day, every other day, I would have a mental breakdown. I would believe that everything I was doing just didn't matter. I wasn't getting anywhere. Um, this is just me. I just had to get used to this, or this was my relationship and I just had to break up and I didn't do that, so I was weak. And that was just a whole spiral I went to so many times. And then at the end of the day, I would lay in bed, probably wide awake, uh, really scared, convinced that I didn't do anything productive that day and I wouldn't amount to anything. And yeah, I would go to sleep, and the next day would be pretty much the same. And then, so all of that still helped, even though I didn't know what I was doing, and it was it was so panic driven. It wasn't like, oh, I am worthy of being healed, and so I am working towards that. It was like, I am not good enough, and I have to get rid of this thing, whatever this is, all these negative feelings, so that I am maybe a little bit good enough. Even with all of that, it still helped because it got me out of the crash state. And when I got out of the crash state, so out of that survival mode, that's when the healing started to compound and started to really make a difference. And I started to notice it in my daily life. I started to get calmer, wake up calmer, not have as many panic attacks anymore. I wouldn't get triggered as often anymore. Things like in the beginning in my relationship, when my boyfriend would say something wrong, something that triggered me, I would close off and be closed off for weeks, for 2 to 3 weeks, before I could actually open up again and be the kind, sweet girl that he knew. For a lot of that period, we didn't live close together, so we only saw each other in the weekends, so it wasn't like he saw that day in, day out. Um, and when I got out of the crash state and the healing started to go faster and I really started to notice effects of it and results of it, I noticed that those 2 weeks turned into a week, and then into a few days, and then into a day, and in the end in a few hours. And now it's non-existent. I don't close off anymore, which is wild to think about. When back then I just couldn't even imagine. I couldn't physically speak even. That's how intense the closing off was. Um, so I started to notice these differences, and that gave me motivation to go on. That didn't mean that I felt like, oh, this is definitely going to work. I still had so many setbacks and fallbacks and moments where I just was convinced that nothing would work. I was just doing this and it was all useless. Um, yeah, so there were days or weeks where I didn't tap just because I thought it was worthless and I just had to get over myself and work harder at being productive. Um, and the days that I did actually heal, I started to become a little bit more systematic in it, and really take the brain dumping more seriously, in the sense that I would start to see patterns and then I would tap on the patterns instead of one-off situations. That really helped to help me go to the root of things. And so when I would find a root that I thought, oh, this is going to make a difference, I would sometimes tap on that for an hour or 2 hours, sometimes also just 5 minutes, but I really would try to go as deep as I could. Um, and yeah, I would do that as often as I could. But again, so many times I felt like it still didn't have any effect and any use, because this is the weird thing about tapping. It is such a powerful tool that you actually release things. So when you have healed those things, they are not an issue anymore. You are not triggered by them anymore, and that feels so normal that it's hard to even believe that you once thought that was an issue. And that's what tripped me up so much, because I would say, oh, all this tapping, it's not doing anything. And then my boyfriend would say, oh, but that's what you said last time, and then this and this and this changed. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. And I just completely forgot. I completely forgot. So I started writing those things down, the wins, the things that I did release, and the what it was like before and what it was like after. And if I thought about it, if I remembered that I had that that little book, I would read in that whenever I felt discouraged and felt like EFT wasn't working. And that the fact that EFT doesn't work, that came back in moments, I think up to a couple of years ago. So that was very long. It's just a thing that your fear brain does. Like, what you're doing doesn't make any sense. It's not helping at all. So even a couple of years ago, after I had healed so much and released so much, sometimes my fear brain would say, oh yeah, but you would have healed that anyway, even if you didn't do anything. And going back into my books and my notes, I know that that's not true. So yeah, it took me so long to actually believe that this tool was helping, because everything I had released felt so normal to not have that be an issue anymore, that I could only focus on what wasn't there, what wasn't good, what wasn't fixed yet. And that was very frustrating again and again. So in the end, what my most effective days of healing the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style looked like, and that was then I had healed already quite a lot, was that whenever I would get triggered, I would be like, oh, this is interesting. Whereas before I was like, oh no, you see, all of this doesn't work and I'm never going to get out of this and I'm just too broken and it's no use. I got to a point where I said, oh, this is a trigger. I'm feeling all these things. Let me see if I have time to work on this now. Then I would sit myself down, allow those feelings to actually be there instead of starting tapping frantically to get them out of my system. Actually allowing those feelings so that I could feel where the real pain was, what was underneath it. Then write down, brain dumping, again, everything that came up, all the fears, and then ask myself certain questions like, okay, but what's the biggest problem about this? Why would it be so bad if that happened? What would be the worst case scenario in that? So really kind of like facing my fears and challenging my fear brain. I'm listening. Tell me what is so scary about this. And then maybe allowing more feelings, more brain dumping, and then tapping, so that I was pretty sure that I would get to the root of what was happening. And I wasn't perfect in this either. I jumped the gun so many times. I still sometimes do that, where I just start tapping right away without really feeling what is going on and brain dumping about it. But yeah, so that was like going through a cycle of triggers, then allowing those feelings instead of trying to push them away, brain dumping what was really going on, and then tapping and releasing. And that was the most powerful cycle. And then I went on to allowing more positive feelings. So I always assumed that positive feelings were just a given. If you just released enough negative feelings, then you would only have positive feelings. And then I realized I had a lot of negative associations around positive feelings also. And I had to release a lot of resistance around that. And so I started focusing on, where do I want to go? What do I want to feel like? And that gave me so many different triggers and so many different things to heal than just when those triggers came up. In the beginning, I had no other choice than to tap on those triggers. But after I had healed for quite some time, I could actually visualize or tune into, okay, how do I want to feel? How do I want my life to be? And then feel what was keeping me from that, and actually releasing that and tapping on that. And that just opened up so many different things and got me to where I wanted to go much quicker. So got me to being healed much quicker, because I started to think, okay, what does being healed look like? And then see what was keeping me from being healed. And that's when I found some of the biggest blocks or the biggest resistance things. And then reinforcing positive beliefs and feelings. So for a while, I believed that all I had to do was release the negative feelings, and that definitely helps because it brings you back to a more neutral state and more to that love and peace that is at your core. But then I realized that reinforcing positive feelings and beliefs is also just a very good habit to get into, which is so much easier when you've healed a lot. So doing those last two is actually the only things that I do now, because I rarely get triggered with anything anymore. Becoming a mom has opened up a new can of worms. So I've been working through that, but usually I'm not triggered anymore. And so I can just focus on where I want to go and release all the blocks to that, and then reinforcing the positive feelings and beliefs around that. And then you get there. Sounds so simple, right? If you know where to go, it is simple. It takes so long to figure that out. And I want you to know that you can figure this out. I am no different. I'm definitely no better than you. You can figure this out on your own, and it's a beautiful journey. It's just, it takes a lot of time and a lot of, I guess, determination also to keep going even when you have no idea if this is the right path. So yeah, that's why I do what I do. I've made programs about this in Dutch and now also in English. Thousands of people, which is crazy still to say, have gone through the programs and it actually helped. So I know it's universal, and I've tested it, and I've made changes and improved it over time. I've been doing this for 7 years already. So now we have the deepest roots of the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style, and you don't have to do all that digging yourself. If you want to, absolutely go for it, do it, because maybe you'll find new things and you can help people, and that would be wonderful. But if you just want to be healed quicker and don't want to do all that work yourself, the program is here. Healed and Happy is here. You can find more information in the link in the description below. It was a beautiful journey. It was very hard, also very it took a lot from me. It also gave me more. And yeah, I definitely have come out the other side way more powerful than I thought I could have been. And I'm very much grateful for that girl that for 10 years did all of this pretty much every day, at least something every day. And all those minutes and hours of tapping that didn't really lead anywhere. I'm grateful for those too, because I'm so grateful for where I am right now, and I wouldn't want my life to be any different. I couldn't imagine still being in the crash state. So I'm really grateful for the determination that that girl had. My little me, or my younger me. So yeah, that was a day in the life of healing the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style. But like in the different phases, this has come to be a way longer video than I thought. If you're still here, you are amazing. I really hope this was valuable. Let me know in the comments below if it was. And as always, I am truly so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one. Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of the Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style.